Good morning, guys. Just want to say thank you very much, and I really appreciate you attending this Bluecroft presentation today. Before we start, just a few things I'd like to cover. We've allocated 30-minute to this webinar, and the webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand after today. And we'll be doing a live Q&A. So any questions, please submit in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll answer them later on.
So great to see so many of you on. Always think it's good to start to introduce ourselves. I know some of you guys, but so I'm James, one of the senior BDMs here at Bluecroft. Joined the team 10 months ago now, flying by, just to come and help launch into the market and really start scaling the team and the business, really. So been in the industry 15 years, do not look old enough. Started off in the banking industry, worked my way up into private banking at Handelsbanken. Then I did 7 years as a broker, which I always mention because I've been you guys. I know how frustrating it can be with lenders when someone doesn't answer a call, doesn't answer an email. So as you'll see, we built the team, the product to answer all them problems that I used to have as a broker. And kind of the last 4 years been spent in the bridging and specialist finance industry. I'll hand over to Ross.
Thank you. A little bit about myself. So I've been in the industry for 10 years, predominantly working for London-based alternative lenders, building the brand awareness, the teams and bits and pieces in the northwest of England. I kind of got into the bridging development world around about 4 or 5 years ago. I was managing director for Estate Guru, who at the time were the biggest or largest pan-licensed real estate peer-to-peer lender in Europe. And then before that, I was in the military for just over 5 years. So, yeah. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a company overview regards to Bluecroft. So we are a bridging lender, exactly what it says on the tin. We like to do bridging lend how it exactly should be done. So Bluecroft's been going for around about 2 years, but we kind of like had a phase 2 launch April last year. So David Giovanni, who's the 100% shareholder, managing director, extremely entrepreneurial, had a number of businesses, sold his last business to a Kuwaiti family, extremely hands-on. His background is all things, property. We've got private money. We've got a lot of private money in the background, and we'll talk about it later on, where we can be, extremely flexible. But around about January, I've known David for about 4 years, but around about January last year, David approached me in regards to Bluecroft and scaling the business. So we had a number of meetings and calls between January and April last year. And then April is kind of like where we really launched. So we're currently sitting in our offices right now. And I remember walking into the offices in around about June, July, and ringing David up and saying to David, look, this office is far too big for us. It's only just myself and an underwriter that I brought on board. And his conversation was, listen, it's not my first rodeo. We'll fill that up pretty quickly. And, we've done exactly that. I've brought James on board. He's been a huge help in kind of like mentoring and managing the sales team. We've got a pretty large underwriting team, and then other departments such as marketing, compliance, accounts, and bits and pieces. So, and I think what we did, at the very beginning was we wanted to kind of like do a lot of research and due diligence in the market. I spoke to a number of brokers, kind of like listening to what works for you, what your challenges are, what are your frustrations. And, a lot of the time service came up. So David and I were very keen to chuck a lot of resource at it from the very beginning, so that we can maintain them service levels. So as you can see on the presentation, we've had a 410% employee growth. And we're not going to stop there, guys. We're going to continue to grow and, bring on more people so that we can service you and your clients. And the loan book, we've had 160% growth in 2024. And I think, that's because of the flexibility, listening to you guys, overcoming those challenges. And because we've got private money, we can do things a little bit, quirky, and, we're very flexible. So, yeah.
And I'll just intro the sales team because it's not just myself. It's obviously quite a geographical team. We cover each of us covers patches. So you've got myself, who covers the interesting patch of the Midlands, Wales, and a bit of Norwich, East Anglia kind of way. We've got Sam, our southern correspondent down in London, covers the southeast of the country. Mike up covering the north of England, and then Colin's got a heck of a patch of Scotland and the southwest. He's a Scottish guy, so it made sense for him. He's moving back there. So really good sales team there. But the absolute glue to all this, and I'm going to make sure she hears this bit, is Sophie. We've built this team who we want out on the road, and Ross will go into that in a bit. But Sophie's there to make sure there's actually someone in the office every single day to make sure every new inquiry we get is looked at, answered in kind of a couple of hours. So you know that I'm doing this webinar right now, but if you've sent a deal over to us, Sophie's getting the valuation quotes, she's getting the lead quotes. She's actually putting some terms together for someone who's on this call as we speak, which is a great example of what we can do and make sure we move fast and what kind of Sophie's role is.
Yeah, and just to complement what James is saying, I think the biggest thing for myself and David and all of us really is making sure we've got the right culture. And I believe, when I look at everyone, here at Bluecroft, the culture is absolutely spot on. But what we wanted to do, we know how difficult it is to find experienced bridging BDMs in this market. It's extremely tough, but we've been very, very lucky because I'll just go through them now. James, you just told you about his background and his experience. Sam Bailey, we got him from another bridging lender. She's got a lot of experience in this market. Michael, he's also worked for a couple of bridging lenders, but just, complement what James was saying earlier on. Michael's also a broker, and he gets it from both sides. He understands your frustrations, he understands your challenges. So that was a really good coup getting Michael on board. And Colin, listen, he's got a wealth of experience, wealth of knowledge. He's a really big asset for us at Bluecroft. He's worked for a number of tier one lenders, and like James said, Sophie is the glue to the sales team and making sure that we're getting back to you as quickly as we can. So yeah.
Bro, so we'll move on to what you're all here for. We'll start with some really high level criteria, but like Ross was saying, and I'll reiterate, we try and do bridging finance properly. Keep it simple. No development. We're not in that market yet. We do the refurb kind of stuff, but we just do bridging really, really well. No buy-to-let development, like I said. So that's our predominant aim, is to really learn and grow in the bridging space. So our loan amounts, we start at 75,000, go up to 3 million. And you'll see as we're going through this criteria and go through some of our case studies, you've got a deal at 72,000. Me and Ross are going to look at that and go, of course we're going to do that for you guys. Because we've got that private money, of course we've got criteria, but they're a guideline. We have that flexibility to do some things outside of our criteria. You'll see some great examples later. Loan terms, 6 months to 18 months, minimum interest of 3 months on there. And again, we're really on the side of brokers and clients. If you want to exit even earlier, we can have that conversation because we want to help clients move on quickly, because we know what bridging is there for is to get to that end goal of term finance or flipping a property. We know we're not the long-term solution. On 100% LTV, you see this banded around, but yeah, we absolutely will look at it because we do second charges. We do first and second charges, and we absolutely love second charges. Do as additional security to allow us to leverage really high, but we also do standalone second charges. We know it's getting less and less popular in the industry, but we're big fans, whether it's a client's main residence, third-party legal charges. We'll look at anything on that second charge basis. We're really, really competitive in that aspect. And the bottom one, which personally think is the most important on that page, and I use this stat all the time, 90% of my personal completions have been on the open market value. We're not just a lender who says, oh, we'll do the open market value. No, we really, really try and use the open market value. And 9 times out of 10 with myself and my deals, that's what we've done. And why it's so important, let's say there's a 10% drop off to 90, 180, which you can see on some quirky commercials, you can see on some large residentials. Let's say that's $100,000 drop. At 75% LTV, we're lending you £75,000 more than a lot of other lenders. So it really does help us leverage for our clients and get a lot of business because we use that on market value. It's really, really popular. So what I would say, though, is there was always the odd occasion, like we had a grade 2 listed property that had been on the market for 18 months. I can't do that on the OMV when there was a massive drop-off, grade 2 listed, it hadn't sold for 18 months, was a third bridge we were doing. Yeah, we just had to be a bit more careful on something like that.
Yeah, and just to lead on from that, I think, you'd have saw the numbers, and I went over them, I touched on them a little bit, as we've scaled, we've probably changed our lending criteria about 3 million times. But, hopefully that just gives you the confidence and the trust that actually the reason we're changing the criteria as we scale, and those numbers are, are pretty impressive, it's because we're listening to you guys. We're taking on board everything that you're saying to us so that we can become a better lender, give you better service. And it's all about those, those growing pains. But we are definitely listening, and we're taking on your feedback on board, and we're implementing a lot of things that you're giving us.
That's got an example of that right here, which is really handy, and we absolutely didn't plan that. I've only just realised, which is good. So as you can see, we do residential, semi-commercial, and commercial. So we look at all asset classes. Couple of things on the commercial, basically anything with vulnerable clients, so nursing homes, care homes, schools. I don't need to be in the Daily Mail kicking kids out of the school to repossess it. So we don't look at them. Pubs we're not huge fans of, but we can look at other than that, and we can look at some really, really quirky stuff on the commercial side. So do think of us with that. But yeah, just them few caveats. But yeah, residential bridging up to 75%. And a great example of what Ross was just saying, we had a down valuation coming last week, Friday last week at 5 o'clock. The property been valued for 1.1 million for another lender 6 months ago, and the exact same value valued it at 1 million. I'm not going to go into why. Let's part that for ranting after a beer another time. But what we got on call 8:30 on Monday morning, going, right guys, we've got this valuation here at 1.1. We've got this one at 1. Come on, look, it's the same property. It's used the same comparables. Right, we went up to 78% on the LTV because we were comfortable with the original valuation. Good properties in Cornwall, holiday lets. Why wouldn't we do it? Really good client, really good background. The exit was pretty solid. Absolutely fine to do that. So we went up to 78%. Highlighted will go above and listen to brokers and try and do that. Semi-commercial up to 70%, commercial up to 65%. And this is a criteria that has changed as of yesterday. It's kind of got MD approval, but we'll cross that bridge. I'm sure he's watching this. I'm joking. So we'll do now standalone second charge up to 70% because we were getting really, really good feedback that, right, 65 was good, but actually we need that little bit more, James. We want to leverage, and we'll give you the other deal. That this is going to deposit a buy to let. Surely you can just give me that a little bit more. So yeah, we've upped that to 70%. To be a bit more commercial in the market, a bit more competitive, but solely based on broker feedback. And another prime example of that is our AVMs and desktops. We launched them in January. Yeah. It wasn't something we were really keen on when we first launched, just obviously testing the market, but the amount of deals that were coming across our desk going, James, we need to complete in 10 days, 2 weeks. You're getting a value out in a week's time. We're not going to get this deal over the line. Can you do a desktop? We're going, yeah, I think we can actually. So we tested the market. We did it with 100 grand properties and 250. So now it's £1 million on desktops, 75% LTV, up to 70% LTV on ABMs. And that's proven really, really popular. It's getting up. Turnaround times have dropped drastically. We're getting stuff out, valuations back in 2 days from submitting cases now. So we're seeing really, really good uptake on that. Auctions, to go back a little bit, do a lot of auction stuff. A lot of that is on the ABM and desktop, as you can imagine. But we've got, and you'll see with the cases, some really good relationships with obviously the panels, but also with direct values, which mean actually we can sometimes do a full valuation on an auction stuff. I'd still meet them timescales. So we're doing a lot in the auction space at the minute. Really good feedback. And the criteria, again, which has changed in the past 2 weeks, you're probably going to see a campaign on this. Might have even gone out to you guys already because we've seen a lot of these below market value. Now, I'm not going to go into the debate of whether something's below market value. Oh, I've got 10 grand off right move price. It's not below market value, guys. But there's some really good examples of inter-family stuff for tax planning purposes. Actually, it's got a landlord who's trying to wait at the market. He's got this portfolio of 10 properties. It's going to give me 10% off if I buy all of them. Yeah, absolutely. And again, we'll look to go up to 95% of the purchase price. Maybe a little more if it's inter-family. And set all 75% of the market value. And that is really, really competitive in the market. We've seen a lot of them at the minute getting more and more of that. So any below market value stuff, think of Bluecroft. Absolutely, really something we're really keen to do. And we can look at something to go into is investor deposits. So we do a lot of stuff where investors putting deposits down, and we can link that with our below market value criteria. So again, really, really good. When you start adding all these little bits that we do together, works really, really well. And yeah, I'm back to you, Ross.
Yeah, so how can we help you and your clients? So, like I said earlier on in the presentation, I think a lot of due diligence, a lot of research was done prior to kind of like the phase 2 launch, and speaking to a number of brokers. I wanted to understand what your frustrations are, because ultimately, guys, you're the bloodline to our business. You are very important to us as a business. So one of the things that came up multiple times was being a storybook lender. I think a lot of brokers get frustrated that if it's an algorithm or a robot, if it's a no, it's a no. Whereas we've done a number of deals where we've declined it from the start, but if you can produce X, Y, and Z, we'll change our mind and take that storybook approach. And we have done a number of deals, regarding that. So I think that's worked extremely well. And you've seen a lot of positive stuff from that, haven't you? So, and then, dedicated underwriter. So what do I want my sales guys to do? I want them to do in what the old relationship bank manager did, and that was going out there, seeing the whites of their eyes of their clients, their brokers. And I want my sales guys out on the road, developing relationships face to face. I mean, I know the world's changed a little bit, and a number of brokers like to do the teams kind of like meetings, but there are still a number of brokers out there who want to see their BDM face to face. And I think that's kind of the old fashioned way and the best way to build relationships. But while your BDMs are out on the road, it's very, very important that you've got that kind of that direct route to the underwriting team for a quick answer. And you might need a quick answer because your client is constantly putting that pressure on you, and there might be a couple of other brokers on that deal as well. So I understand how important it is to get you a quick answer to something that that has arisen. So you'll get a dedicated number, dedicated email to the underwriting and case handler. So, and then the other thing was so England and Wales, geographically we'll do anywhere in England and Wales. Obviously those prime cities like London, Manchester, Leeds, etc. But we're looking at a couple of deals at the moment in Cornwall. But with our investor David being half Scottish, half Italian, what a mix, eh? He's very keen to step into the Scotland market, and we've done a lot of groundwork in Scotland. We've actually done a couple of deals already in Scotland, and I'm up in June going to visit our lawyers and a number of brokers, and James is coming up to spend a few days with me as well. And we're looking at that kind of belt between Glasgow and Edinburgh and a few other places between there. And then, as we kind of like build momentum and confidence, then we'll look at different areas in Scotland. But we're not there, guys, to just, dip our toe into Scotland and then leave after a few months. We are fully committed to Scotland. At Northern Ireland and obviously Republic of Ireland, we're not doing, but who knows? We're always listening to the broker world. So, yeah, that's where we're at right now. But I'll leave the rest over to you, James.
Yeah, I'll only pick a couple of points out so you guys can see. But yeah, I think adverse credit is something that's really popular is probably the wrong phrase, but seeing a lot of it in the market at the minute. And for us, it's really, really simple. Where the exit is sale, why does it matter to us? Now, there's 24 mortgages that are in arrears, and I did have that 24 individual buy-to-lets in arrears, probably a little too much. But where the exit is sale, why wouldn't we do it? How is that going to impact the exit? If we've got really good property that's on the market for sale with a strong valuation, lending on market value, why are we bothered about this CCJ, this default? It makes absolutely no sense. It's not going to impact us. So really, really happy to look at that. When the exit's refinance, we need to understand. That's where the storybook approach comes in. Like with one of the case studies we'll go through, we always want to understand why that happened. And if we can, we know after having them cleared for 6 months, and we're happy to use our loan to clear the CCJs and defaults, we're happy to absolutely do that because we know after 6 months they can refinance out. So really happy with that. Same with foreign nationals and expats. Expats, very, very few restrictions. Happy to look at them. Foreign nationals, we like it to be through a UK limited company. But even if it's not, I've got a deal at the minute that's in the pipeline. Second charge for a Spanish national who's living in Equatorial Guinea. Not just made that up. Case going through. why wouldn't we do? We've got a really good asset in London. We've got a footprint in England, so you already own the asset. Want to refinance and to invest in another property? Absolutely, we're going to look at that. Last couple for me on this. I think the one I'm really, really keen to reiterate is the no hidden charge and processing fees. We don't charge an admin fee. We don't charge this for this. We don't charge an arrangement fee. We've got an exit fee on there. Really simple. Nothing hidden from us. There's not a single penny in this for us if it doesn't complete. So we're all on your side. And every single lender will tell you they're fast and flexible. So I'm not going to harp on about that because what BDM is going to tell you they're slow. But please, when you come to us, when you use us, you'll really see that in action. And one of the big things is just obviously the partners we work alongside. You'll know some of these names. Obviously, I'll hand back over to Ross to chat through it a little bit for you.
Thank you, James. Yeah, so obviously we're looking for credible partners. And again, I spoke to a number of, done a lot of due diligence, spoke to a number of brokers and clients and bits and pieces. And as you can see on the presentation, these are the names that came on board. And obviously some of them I've known for years and worked with them. So I was very keen to bring on credible bridging solicitors like the likes of, Field Fisher, Taylor's, MSB, Berman's, and Seddon's. Seddon's, the London market, that southern market really well. And we do, they're very good. And then we're obviously working with the likes of Method and Vass, who, we're on their panels. And, again, the service that they offer us is fantastic. And then Shawbrook. So, so Shawbrook is, we went through 3 months of due diligence with Shawbrook. And, I can't thank the Bluecroft team enough. So, we spoke about, obviously, we've got private funds, but we've also got institutional money here. So they were actually here last week. We secured an 8-figure facility, but they were here last week to do another audit. Again, they've increased that facility. And I think what makes me immensely proud of Bluecroft and the people who work here is, as we all know, Shawbrook fund a number of lenders in the market. They've never put a facility in place this early in someone's journey or a bridging lender's journey. So we're definitely doing something right, or a lot of things right, but are we perfect? No. Are we still experiencing, growing pains? Of course we are. I'm not egotistic enough to say that we're perfect and everything, because we're not. But what we are very good at is, I think, doing things in the right way, listening to you guys, taking everything on board. And just so you are aware, we're also talking to other institutional investors in the background. So, stand by for some more news.
I think it's really key as well to highlight. I've had this feedback, like, brilliant, but we've still got that private money in the background. Yeah. I think that's really key to say. Just because we get working with these institutions, actually, these institutions are going to enhance us, allow us to do some bigger deals, Scotland, some more second charge, do more ABMs and desktops, whilst with our storybook approach and that private money, we'll still have that flexibility. As you can see, and I did not plan that with some of our case studies. I wish I did. But I'll let Ross start on this one, actually.
Yeah, so in my 20s, I was working for a property company for about 8 years. I was associate director there, and Samantha, who's our client, who has been in the service industry for 20 years, she wanted to purchase this commercial building, and so I keep in regular contact with her. Newcastle was kind of my home, so I spent 11 great years up there, and I rang Sam out of the blue, actually, back in December, wasn't it, James? And she told me that she was, working with another lender in the market, and she was, telling me her frustrations. She was really, really worried that it wasn't going to go through. And there was a number of other quirky things, which I'll let James elaborate in a bit. But, I was like, look, trust me, or trust us, trust Bluecroft, to help support you on this deal. And she then basically said, right, okay, I'm happy to give you guys a go, because she was, feeling the frustrations and the worries elsewhere. And this is where I brought James in and his expertise to move the deal forward. So
it was a really tricky deal in many regards, because it was an option agreement she'd had in place for 5 years. The option was in the name of another company, so we obviously need to get that rewritten. We would take this from another lender who, in typical style, didn't release the valuation report, which I get, but obviously added a massive thinking, flipping out, we need a valuation here, guys. So We actually picked up the phone to one Ross has known for years, got a valuer out in 2 days and got the report back in 4 days, which for commercial properties unheard of. So it's brilliant working on that. And then the seller of the property said he wasn't going to respond to any inquiries because they've had the option for 5 years. So why are they doing it now? So again, another hurdle, which we work with our solicitors to put a few things in place to mitigate that. And alongside that, we needed to rewrite the debenture because that wasn't going to work for Sam. So we completely changed our debenture. And then we couldn't evidence how Sam was going to service this. Now, she's got a track record. We could see that this property we knew was going to be subleased out. So we knew that was going to work. So we went, right, Sam, let's retain the first 3 months, give you that breathing space, and then we'll let you service the next 9 months. Again, showing that flexibility. Even though we didn't have that evidence, we do that. And I think we agreed that on Boxing Day, which was fun. My wife was happy. 2-day-old baby as well, but hey, that's another story. But yeah, we got this over the line for Sam, and yeah, you can see she was delighted. And one of the quick case studies, I won't go on too much, but really, really good example of another loan where, again, we had a valuation from another lender who wouldn't release it, which we needed that valuer to go back out and re-inspect, but they couldn't for 2 weeks. So we went, right, let's get on the blower, let's ring the valuers we know. So got someone out the same week. It's a part finished development, as you can kind of see with the windows. Very, very little still to do on this. So we're happy to do this. Wasn't development, more development and development exit and finish type thing. And again, there was some severe adverse on this, but we listened, we understood the story behind it because the director who'd left this company now had got CCJs on multiple companies from multiple other people, which was no fault of the director we were lending to. So we negotiated with the guy who had the CCJ, going, right, we'll do the first charge. If you remove the CCJ, we'll give you, I think it was 10 grand out of our loan towards repaying that CCJ, and also take a second charge. So when this property sells, you'll get your money back. Absolutely happy with that. And again, we did 2 months retained and 4 months serviced. It's not rented out, no income producing asset, but we could see 4 weeks to finish the property, probably 4 weeks to get it rented out. And then we're going, right, you'll be able to service from that. Again, getting that net amount that the client needed and just adding that bit of flexibility. And we got this over the line last month. Client was delighted, broker was delighted, and we're now helping them refinance out, releasing that valuation report. So hopefully you see how we go above and beyond the client, beyond for our clients. I won't stay on this too long, guys, because time is running out, and me and Ross are ready for you to grill us with some questions. So again, the BDMs will be in touch with you. So we've got them BDMs. They'll all be in touch with you. I'll reach out today. So any questions we don't get to today, because I'm noticing the time, I'm sure you need to shoot off, guys, we'll reach out to you. Let's try and answer some of them questions now for you guys. So let's see what we've got. And we've got a few just waiting for these to load. So I'll answer that one really first. What confidence levels do we need on an AVM? Confidence level 4. 70% on AVMs, confidence level 4. Worst case, we'll just do a desktop on it. And people worry about us. Desktop, we can get them back in 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours. So we're really happy to go above and beyond on AVMs, and we can move it to a desktop, which is not going to slow anything down. Or we even do a short form valuation. Really quick, really straightforward, and we can even look to leverage even more. We're going through. Max on a single unit value for bridging. It's an interesting one, that. So 3 million is our maximum on a single unit that we'll look at, but actually we can be flexible with that. So let's say you're buying a property that's got 3 flats on 3 separate titles. That can be 3 million on each one of them. And we can look at that because we've got, as Ross would say, some other institutional lines in the background that allow us to leverage quite highly on some higher value stuff. So yeah, max on single units, 3 million. But let's look at the asset like all these things, storybook approach. Let's look at it, let's understand it, and we'll go from there.
Do you offer service as well as retained? Yes, we do. We're kind of like a blend. Most of our loans or deals that we've done are predominantly retained, but we can offer that flexibility and contribute. You know, we can do a bit of service, bit of retained, and I think we've done a few deals like that.
We have quite a few. Do you accept short form val retypes on Resi by Tech? Yeah, absolutely fine. As long no restrictions on retypes, as long as the lender's going to consent, we're happy to do a retype on a short form valuation. Same with long form. More than happy to do retypes on that. Let's have a quick flick through. So that's a good one. How quickly can you issue an AIP and a formal offer? So it's not an AIP as such, but let's say you've sent me a deal at 12 o'clock today, prime example. We'll get back to you with terms, credit back within 2 hours. Now, caveat that, of course, I'm a BDM, I'm going to caveat it. If it's outside criteria and you're going, you need 78% LTV, me and Ross will have a conversation. We might pull our MD David in going, David, can you stick the extra money in for this? Absolutely. That may slightly fall outside of the initial 2 hours because I've got to get on the phone with Ross and David. So if it's outside criteria, maybe a little longer. But what you will find is we will always get back to you in 2 hours going, here's what I can do. Right, you've asked for 78% LTV, to use it as an example. I can do 75%. Here's the 75% terms for you. Let me go away and have that conversation. Let's see what I can do on that. You want a desktop? I'm not going to get a desktop at 78, but do a desktop at 75. Let's do a short form, Val. I'll do that at 78% for you. So can do that. After that, what we'll do is then hand it over to our underwriting team. So get the terms in, get an application form in for you, which we're just literally about to launch a digital version on our portal as well as a PDF because we've had some feedback on that and we lost to get all that on our website. So that'll be on our website shortly. Once you get that, pass it to our underwriting team. They'll send out their initial list of underwriting within 3 hours, which is incredibly minimal, not what we asked for, as well as valuation quotes and things like that. As soon as they've got the documentation back from you, within 48 hours, you will have an offer subject to valuation if you've not got a desktop or an ABM in that time, and subject to legals. So we'll move incredibly fast. I think that's it, guys. So there's a couple of others there which have come in, but I'll make sure we get back to you on all the questions we haven't answered. There's a few there. I can see loads of you joined, so really appreciate your time, guys. And I think after today, the BDMs will be attempting to reach out to you to discuss how Bluecroft can work with you in the future. But, feel free to get in touch with us. But, again, I really want to say thank you very much for giving up your time today to, attending this, webinar. I really do appreciate it. We'll be in contact. And, thank you. Anything else from you? Nothing, guys. So really appreciate your time. And, look forward to speaking to you all soon. And hopefully we'll get some deals from you guys.
Cheers. Thank you, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.